pieces.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. Please be seated. And I hope while you've been waiting for us, thank you for waiting. You've taken in our respect for our First Nations, and I'd like to call the meeting to order. Could I have an approval of the agenda, please, Councillor Lambert?
Mayor Sager, I move that the June 3rd, 2024 regular council meeting agenda be amended by considering items in the bylaws section, item 9 regarding proposed park dedication bylaw number 5337-2024 for the Upper Lands, and item 10 regarding proposed zoning bylaw number 4662-2010, amendment bylaw number 5328-2024 to enhance retail diversity, immediately following item 5 regarding the 2024 student video contest recycling in parks. And that the agenda be approved as amended.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Councillor Cassidy.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary carried. Thank you. And tonight we have a wonderful delegation from the Hollyburn Community Services Society to give us a year in review. And thank you, Ms. Farron, for joining us. And I'm
Joy Hayden.
Thank you. Sorry.
No worries.
A moment of hesitation. Sorry.
Well, thank you for having us tonight. It's a treat to be here. So thank you, Mayor and Council, for giving us this opportunity to present a year in review of Hollyburn Community Services Society. It really is our pleasure to be here with you tonight. My name is Nancy Farron. I am the board chair for Hollyburn Community Services Society, and with me today is Joy Hayden, our Director of Innovation and Engagement.
Sorry, we're having problems
And
already.
she's so innovative, she figured out how to work the slides in the first gasp. There you go. Oh, Pascal, did something go sideways?
Yeah. Can't seem to pull it up.
Well,
You'll learn quickly it's our 20th anniversary this year. We have been around for a while, and there's a lot of celebrations to be had. And
Nancy, there you go.
there you go. So over 900 clients have been supported by Hollyburn this past year. And I wish I could tell you that was a decrease in past numbers, but that's actually a 10% increase in the clients that we've served from last year. We support people from the ages of 13 to 95 who experience a range of social vulnerabilities and complexities. Joy?
And I'm Joy Hayden. I'm the Director of Innovation and Engagement at Hollyburn, and it's wonderful to see old faces and new faces and returning faces, and a pleasure to be here, so thank you for your time. So our youth services, we offer a wraparound support, and I think the best way to describe how this works is with a brief story. So we have a youth safe house, and a young woman came to us a few years ago. Staff worked with her to develop a care plan. She transitioned into our Life Success Program, which is a program that supports formerly homeless youth to live independently. From there, she moved into one of our employment programs, and then she landed in our Youth Education Navigator program. So an 18-year-old that came to the Youth Safe House homeless, and today she's been accepted into medical school. Wow. And that is the value of what wraparound services do and what Hollyburn does for our programs. We're so proud of this woman, and we all know that we need new physicians in our community. So hopefully she stays with us. We also support seniors, and I think some of you have heard me talk about our senior services, supporting seniors who are at housing risk. Those are seniors who may be facing homelessness or who are experiencing homelessness. And we are seeing more and more complex cases of seniors coming to us. Many of them are arriving without any ID, no bank account, no address. They've not done their taxes, so they have no pensions. Our staff starts at square one, and this can take months and months and months. So probably a few years ago, I would have announced that we supported 400 seniors. And today I'm going to announce that we supported about 230 because they stay with us for such longer periods of time, trying to work through the complexities. But once those details are attended to, and that may include putting them into our senior safe house where they can stay outside of a shelter or stay outside of their vehicle and live in a house until we can find long-term housing for them. We do by the miraculous work of our staff, move seniors into housing. We have a tremendous track record, and it has to be said that we have tremendous partnerships such as Kiwanis, such as Brightside Housing, and even of late West Vancouver District in providing us with 6 townhouses for young women, but not necessarily seniors. We also support individuals and families, and these are mostly women, but they may be men, they may be transgendered individuals who are experiencing domestic violence. We see large numbers of these with huge new referrals coming in every year. And this also includes the very hard work of supporting these people with our newest team member, who is Queenie. And Queenie is a service dog. And Queenie last year, I believe, put in, I think it's on here, 436 hours supporting clients in the court. And this might be a child. This may be a woman who's having to testify against a violent husband. And what Queenie does is sits, as a dog does, allows her to be petted, and just manages to reduce blood pressure, anxiety, and breathing. So one of our hardest working employees with those hours, without a doubt, but I think Queenie is well rewarded with treats because she's a little bit wider than she was when she first started with us, aren't we all? I'm going to pass that back over to Nancy.
So this is a super quick overview. We know you have a very busy agenda tonight, so we're trying to be respectful of that. What probably gets lost in this is the nuance of the work. And Joyce alluded to one of the stories, but there are so many more success stories of people whose lives, if you've ever read Five Little Indians, where kids fall out of the system because they're just left on their own devices, Hollyburn makes sure they're not left on those devices. And we rescue people from cars and homelessness, and I think that's such valuable work. And so we're hoping it's our 20th anniversary and that you will join us for some of the celebrations that we have planned. Linda came up to something the other day. Thank you, Linda. Yes, so lots of... We're calling the next 20 years Hollyburn 2.0.
We are. So what we're seeing at Hollyburn, which isn't new to you and it certainly isn't new to us, we're seeing significant mental health issues. The majority of the youth that are coming to any of our programs are dealing with severe anxiety and depression. We're seeing higher numbers of homelessness across the community. We're seeing families who are experiencing homelessness and they're coming to us. We have every politician within the North Shore region that are sending clients to us. We no longer do outreach anymore because the clients know who we are and they're lining up at that door. And what we need is more housing. And I touched on the 6 townhouses that we received from the District of West Vancouver for low-income female-led families, and that has just been remarkable to see these 6 families move into these townhouses. They are a tribe. Their children play with each other. They have built a community in a very short few months, and we welcome any new opportunities for housing to partner with the District of West Vancouver and any of the developers that are looking to support vulnerable individuals.
And as we close off, we just want to say to Mayor and Council, thank you very much. Your staff are amazing. We can't do what we do without the District of West Vancouver as a truly critical partner. And we thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you so much. Members of Council, any questions? Just like to express on behalf of all of Council and the community our sincere thanks for all of the energy, the time and dedication that you put in, and we're very, very grateful. Thank you. I'll ask Councillor Watt if you would make a motion, but Councillor Cassidy is going to add a comment.
Thank you for your presentation. It was excellent, and the work that you do is absolutely outstanding and inordinately needed. The housing units you have at the Sentinel there in West Vancouver, for the individuals that move in, is there a term as far as how long they can stay, or is it indefinite until the children age out of school? What are the terms, please?
The terms are that they can stay in the units for as long as the children fit the mandate, which would be, and we're working within the National Housing Standards. So if you have children of different gender, then they would require a 2-bedroom versus like separate bedrooms. So working within the mix of the family and the age of the family, and then of course the agreement that we have with West Vancouver. So I believe it's a 5-year with a potential 5-year agreement. So enough time for these young kids to grow into functioning adults. And then our wraparound services will support those women in any capacity, whether that's connecting them with other community-based services for employment or going back to school for education, whatever that might look like.
Okay, so after the children age out of school, you would have to be moving out.
Once the
School meaning high school.
So the age of 19, unless they're in post-secondary, then I think it's the age of 25, but I believe our lease agreement is the age of 19.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Could I have a motion, Councillor Watt?
Yeah, and first I just want to thank you for all you do. And I had the opportunity about 2 weeks ago to go out to the Youth Safe House in North Vancouver. And it was one of the most incredibly moving and inspirational experiences I've had since I was elected to council. Really outstanding work, and yeah, thank you. So on that note, I would like to recommend that the delegation from Hollyburn Community Services Society regarding a year in review be received for information with our most sincere thanks and gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy, thank you. Any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary carried again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Great to see you. And now we move to something a bit of rather fun, the 2024 Student Video Contest Recycling in Parks. I think we're going to see a quick video and have a presentation. Thank you for joining us this evening.
All right. Thank you for having us, Mayor and Council. My name is Trevor Dore. I'm a policy and programs planner here in the engineering department. I'm joined with my colleague Jules Litzter, who is also works in the engineering department. We're here to present the winning videos from the 2024 Student Video Contest. Jules does have a presentation prepared. As she pulls it up there, I just want to provide a quick reminder to Council that we have invited the students from the top 3 winning videos to join us here tonight. So they're behind us in Council.
Are they here?
They will, and we will introduce them in the presentation.
Perfect.
And just the reminder is to, we're hoping to have a picture with Mayor and Council at the end of the presentation.
Wonderful.
I think you're doing good. Yeah, if you just, you're sharing, if you just click that one right there.
Great.
Take it away, Jules.
Great. Hi, everyone. Hi, Mayor and Council. My name is Jules Litzter. I'm the Community Program Coordinator in the Engineering Department. This is my colleague, Trevor, as you mentioned, who I'll be presenting with tonight. So thank you for the opportunity to present and to celebrate some of West Vancouver's student filmmakers. So for the past 9 years, the district has challenged West Vancouver students from kindergarten to grade 12 to make and submit short videos on various themes related to sustainability and how individual behavior can have a positive impact in our community. Previous competitions have revolved around the themes of active transportation, water conservation, and urban forests. This year, we challenged students to make videos on recycling in parks. We chose this theme as it helps promote the new Parks Recycling Program. We wanted students and the broader community to think about the benefits that the Parks Recycling Program provides to our community and the importance of using this program properly. When recycling is not sorted, it all ends up in landfill. The impact of this program and these videos goes beyond the students that create them. They also foster productive conversations around climate change and social actions with the families, friends, and communities involved. So on behalf of the District of West Vancouver, thank you to all the students who submitted videos. We also wanted to give a special thanks to our judges, Mayor Sager and Councillor Gambioli, as well as Heather Keith, Megan Wise, Erica Bronner from the District of West Vancouver. Choosing the top videos is not an easy job due to all the hard work and creativity that goes into every submission, and this is why we continue to reward the top 10 videos to recognize this effort and inspire as many students as possible. So unfortunately, we will not be able to share all of the top 10 videos tonight, but we do plan to host a winning video presentation sometime in the fall at the library. So stay tuned for more details about that. And so without further delay, let's meet the top 3 winners who are here with us tonight. So we have Addison Hudson and Paige Hudson here from West Vancouver Secondary School and Ridgeview Elementary. And they are our first prize. Our second prize goes to Ariana Yang, Alexander Vernon, Arthur Vernon, Blaze Keys, and Sherwin Ma, all from West Bay Elementary School. And our third prize goes to Avery Ho, Lulu, Ibrahim Louis from Ridgeview Elementary School. All right. And so let's watch our first place video.
Wait, stop! That doesn't go in there. That goes in the containers bin. The containers bin is for cans, bottles, and papers, cups. The organics bin is for organics such as apple cores and disposable products like wooden sticks. The landfill is only for garbage like wrappers and gum that cannot be recycled.
Ah, I see.
To help you understand more, watch this.
1, 2, 3, 4. Don't leave your garbage on the floor. Containers and food scraps. That is what the bins are for. Oh, the landfills are getting so full. Don't contaminate, just use the right bins. Oh, 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 we're changing our parks. Oh, 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 to fight climate change. Millennium Park, John Lawson Park, new bins are a good start to reduce greenhouse gases. Everyone must do their part. This will help keep our community clean. Use the 3-stream bins is what we mean. Oh, 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 the bins don't recycle. No, oh, oh, it's the people who do.
Because it's really important that you know what goes in each bin, because approximately 50% of waste that could have been recycled ended up in the landfill.
That's terrible.
Exactly. If you need more information, head to westvancouver.ca.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
1, 2, 3.
Wonderful. It's pretty funny that pops up right with the backdrop on this YouTube. It must be West Vancouver has talent.
Vancouver.ca.
I don't know if they'll go back. We've struggled with this before. Great. Yeah, so wasn't that amazing? And again, as they mentioned, you can watch all the videos on the district's website at westvancouver.ca/student videos. So congratulations to all the student video contest winners. Thanks again, Mayor and Council. And now hopefully we can get a photo with everyone. If that's okay.
Happy to do so. Where do you want us? At the front here
Yeah,
with them?
the front here would be great.
Members of council, let's go.
Yeah, you guys want to come up? They won't bite.
Hey guys, congratulations all of you.
Everyone's sorted?
I think that's good. Got everyone in the frame? Okay.
Perfect.
Everyone looking this way? 3, 2, 1.
Oh, look it up. Look up here.
Look up here. Okay, I'm going to do a couple this way just for the communications team. Okay, that's super. The parents, everyone, all the parents got pictures.
Hey guys, thank you very much. Everyone, let's give one more round of applause.
With that, you guys are welcome to leave. Or you can stay. Thanks.
And could I just ask Councillor Gambioli if you could make a motion to receive the presentation?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'll recommend that the presentation regarding 2024 Student Video Contest Recycling in Parks be received for information with thanks.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. Thank you. We'll move now to bylaws and to finalize the motions that were made a week ago and created our wonderful new park. I'm going to turn it over to Councillor Lambert.
Well, thank you, Mayor Sager. Yes, this brings us to the end of our journey on the park dedication initiative that we started a while ago, actually, and celebrated last Monday. And now I'm very pleased to recommend that the proposed park dedication bylaw number 5337/2024 be adopted.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Yes, I'll second that, and it's just with great pride and pleasure that we've been able to do this for our community.
Thank you, and would be remiss if I didn't recognize former Councillor Rod Day, who's here tonight, and thanks to his son, Andy Day, we're incredibly grateful for the work he's done with the BC Parks Foundation and to the Wilson Five Family Foundation, who have generously contributed $3 million to kick off the funding for this wonderful new park. I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. Councillor Cassidy, your microphone is still on there. Thank you. We'll now move to the proposed amendment bylaw to enhance retail diversity. Councillor Cassidy. Now we can put it back on.
Now I can put it on. Thank you. It's recommended the proposed zoning bylaw number 4662/2010, amendment bylaw number 5328/2024 be read a second time.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll call any discussion. I'll call a question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. Thank you. Councillor Cassidy.
It is recommended the proposed zoning bylaw number 4662/2010, amendment bylaw number 5328/2024 be read a third time.
Thank you. Seconded. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. Now this brings us to item number 6 on our agenda tonight. This is the Cypress Village and Eagle Ridge approvals, and I hope you'll forgive me, but I would like to, are we going to have a presentation? I was going to make a few opening remarks, and then we could have a presentation. And I would like to say tonight, in my view, this is a pivotal moment in the history of our community. And as your mayor, it is my honor and duty to present for council and your consideration a visionary proposal that can shape the future of West Vancouver for generations to come. Today, we consider the introduction of a number of motions that will, if passed, facilitate a density transfer from British Pacific Properties to our municipality. This will result in the creation of a magnificent 262-acre park in exchange for the development of a comprehensive village on the British Pacific Properties lands. If approved, these added lands will add to the park creation, which was just finalized this evening. That area of 1,930 acres, combined with Eagle Ridge, will create a park dedication of 2,162 acres, making it, I am told, the largest such dedication of land next to a metropolitan area in the world. British Pacific Properties has been the owner of this invaluable land since the Great Depression. For decades, it has had the legal right to use and develop their land into conventional single-family lots. It was in the 1990s when those of us on council, and that's Councillor Day and myself and others, first started discussing with them how we could do things differently. Those discussions led to the creation of Deer Ridge, which was, at the time, very controversial, but today is accepted as intelligent land use. The plan which comes before you tonight for your consideration started in earnest in 2015, and it was guided by many knowledgeable and dedicated individuals in our community. And I see some of these residents and citizens with us here tonight. Councillor Rod Day, Steve Nichols, our former outstanding Director of Planning, Andy Krawchuk and the Upper Lands Committee, Alan Bardsley with the Old Growth Conservancy, and others. This plan would not have been possible without your input. Gentlemen, we are most grateful. It is also thanks to our staff, led by Mr. Bailey, and the exceptional work of Jay Wallenberg and his team. Jay is now retired at Corey Ellis Consulting. And Jay, by the way, for those of you who don't know, was the person who years ago promoted the whole concept of community amenity charges. His firm now, led by Nicole Olenek, who's with us, and Blair Erb, have been the go-to company to assist municipal governments across Canada when dealing with complex land use transactions and planning. So I truly believe we brought the A-team to these negotiations. So to everyone who has worked so hard to bring this plan forward for consideration, I express my most sincere thanks. The proposal now before Council for consideration embodies a long-term vision, reflecting the foresight and planning that has guided West Vancouver through the decades. This plan is not just for us, but for our children, our grandchildren, and countless future generations. If approved by Council, it will stand as a testament to our commitment to preserving the natural beauty and environmental integrity of our region. And I just for a moment like to reflect on other examples of long-term vision that have transformed communities and stood the test of time. Can't forget Central Park in New York City, created in 1858. Central Park's a green oasis amid an urban jungle, and it has served as a refuge and a place for recreation and a symbol of the city's dedication to providing green space to its residents. Our proposed park will similarly offer a sanctuary and a place for community gatherings, sports, relaxation. Stanley Park, established in 1888, has become one of the most famous parks in the world and attracts millions of visitors a year, showcasing the importance of preserving natural spaces in urban areas. The Golden Gate Park in San Francisco, again established in 1870. The Golden Gate Park has been a hub of cultural and recreational activities and has evolved over time, accommodating the needs and interests of its community while maintaining its natural beauty. If approved, we envision our park evolving similarly and meeting the needs of future generations while preserving the ecological integrity. And of course, another project very close to home, and which I feel very strongly about, is the acquisition of our Ambleside waterfront. I remember back when this plan first started, and there were those who were firmly against it. They felt it was not a good deal for the municipality. Imagine paying a few $100,000 for that first home. And the thought that one day all of the homes would be purchased, it seemed impossible to imagine. But thankfully, for decades, all of the councils voted to continue with the plan, and yes, there were always those who continued to object and disagree. But would anyone say it was a bad plan today? I don't think so. And I can tell you, having been through many of these undertakings, I still feel I have the scars, but I'm glad that subsequent councils persevered. So if we can just think for a moment of the generational impact. The plan now before you for consideration has vision and forward-thinking initiatives that will provide numerous benefits: environmental preservation, community well-being, economic value, heritage and legacy. If approved, in exchange for this priceless gift, British Pacific Properties will develop a comprehensive village on their lands. This development will be thoughtfully designed to blend with our community's character, offering housing, commercial spaces, and amenities that meet the needs of a growing population. So today, we take the step to move this forward for public consideration. To create a lasting legacy will define our community for generations. And by supporting these bylaws going forward for public comment and council consideration, we are investing in the future of West Vancouver, preserving our natural heritage and fostering a vibrant, sustainable community. And I and all members of council will come to the public hearing if council should vote this evening to move this forward. We will come with an open mind. We will receive all of the input in a fair and impartial manner. But let us seize this opportunity to listen to our community and unite with vision. And I thank you very much. So I will now turn to the motions. The first motion, I will ask Councillor Gambioli to read. Oh, sorry, there's a presentation, right, of course. I forgot I was doing all that talking and I lost my mind. Could we have the presentation? And I do know that this has been, the presentations have been heard by the community many times.
So, Mr. Mayor, while our team is getting ready here, I'd like to say just behalf of the district team, your executive team, we're pleased to present this series of bylaws that, as you've pointed out, if eventually approved, will result in the realization of two of your key strategic goals and pillars of your strat plan. One is obviously the acquisition and protection of 262 acres in Eagle Ridge, and secondly, creating a new compact mixed-use sustainable community in Cypress Village. Like you, I'd also really want to turn to the audience and thank folks who are here, folks who will hopefully be at the public hearing, for their work on this. This is really the culmination of frankly, years and decades of public work, and that can't be lost in any of this, the effort and thought that's gone and come from the public as forming this. I'd also like to recognize that the work that we're about to present is the result, I think, of a very fortuitous and collaborative working relationship with the landowner, and I think an approach that recognizes that as a community we can achieve mutual success by working together. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues. Nicole Olenek will lead the presentation. She's joined by Mr. Erb, Mr. Wallenberg, and staff, Ms. Kettler, Ms. Mahler, and myself are all available with the team to answer your questions after. So thank you very much.
Mr. Bailey. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pascal, could you help me get the presentation up? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bailey, and thank you, Mayor and Council, for having us here tonight. We're very happy to be here today to present the proposed plan, bylaws, legal agreements, and recommendations related to Cypress Village and Eagle Ridge for Council's consideration. We'll start with a bit of a review of some background information about the context and goals for this planning and engagement process, review the process that led to the proposed plan and related bylaws and agreements, provide some highlights of the proposed area development plan, an overview of the main business terms that have been negotiated between the district and the landowner, British Pacific Properties, an overview of the proposed package of bylaws and legal agreements, and also summarize staff's recommendations. I'll start with some information about the context and goals. This map shows the upper lands, which are the lands north of the Upper Levels Highway and below Cypress Provincial Park and the Capilano watershed, from the eastern edge of West Vancouver out to Horseshoe Bay. They include lands both above and below the 1,200-foot contour, which is this line along here. Lands above the 1,200-foot contour are designated as a limited use and recreation area and zoned for community use. No changes to the OCP designation or zoning for these lands are proposed. The upper lands below the 1,200-foot contour are divided into 4 remaining planning areas: Eagle Ridge, Inter Creek, Cypress West, and Cypress Village. These areas are all west of Rogers Creek, which is the neighborhood currently being developed. And you can see in the table below the map that each of these planning areas is quite large, measured in terms of hundreds of acres. This map shows land ownership in the upper lands. There's 2 major landowners, the district, whose lands are shaded blue in this image, and British Pacific Properties, whose lands are shaded orange. Looking at the 4 planning areas, BPP owns more than half of the land in those 4 remaining planning areas. A little history about the upper lands. Almost 100 years ago, BPP acquired 4,000 acres in the upper lands from the district. The lands were already zoned to allow single-family development, which is an important piece of information to keep in mind as we go through the presentation. Shortly after that, BPP designed and built the Lions Gate Bridge, and then started developing the upper lands, starting in the east, moving westward, with new neighborhoods planned incrementally over time. Much of this development was large single-family houses on large lots, with limited amenities and services, and not much land protected in a natural state. A couple of decades ago in the 1990s, neighborhood planning began to shift towards preserving more land in a natural state and towards including a broader range of housing types, including multifamily housing. A couple of examples, as the mayor pointed out, is Deer Ridge and Stonecliff apartment buildings on Cypress Bowl Road, which involved the transfer of development potential, and the 2008 Rogers Creek Area Development Plan, which includes multifamily housing, preserving large portions of the neighborhood in a natural state, and which anticipated a future nearby mixed-use village. During 2013 to 2015, the council appointed citizen volunteer Upperlands Working Group completed its work, which looked at planning the Upperlands neighborhood in a holistic way and recommended protecting 2 of the 4 planning areas, Eagle Ridge and Inter Creek, and transferring the development potential from those lands into new compact neighborhoods in Cypress Village and Cypress West, where development would be clustered. This holistic approach is possible because the privately owned upper lands are mostly owned by one landowner, BPP. Transferring the development rights means the lands in Eagle Ridge and Inter Creek could no longer be developed with single-family housing, which is allowed under the existing zoning, or any form of development. These lands would be retained for recreation and conservation purposes, and then additional residential development would be included in the new neighborhoods in Cypress Village and Cypress West. In 2018, the district updated its official community plan to reflect that vision and to include goals and objectives for Cypress Village. And in 2019, the district began a comprehensive planning and engagement process to start implementing that vision, which has led us here today. To accommodate the transfer of development potential in Cypress Village and Cypress West, almost all of the units must be multifamily because the amount of land in the planning areas is limited, and including a large portion of multifamily housing is consistent with the goals of creating a compact and sustainable community. Transferring all of the development potential from Eagle Ridge and Inter Creek into Cypress Village and Cypress West at one time would involve about 50 years or more of residential development. And this is really too far into the future to reasonably plan for now, so the district is implementing that overall vision in the OCP in steps. This first implementation step includes Cypress Village, because it's the next neighborhood moving west from Rogers Creek, where development's currently underway, and Eagle Ridge, which has the most environmentally significant lands. So the planning for Inter Creek and Cypress West will happen in the future, likely when Cypress Village is nearing build-out in about 20 years. So there's 2 interconnected goals for this process. The first goal is to protect the lands in Eagle Ridge that are currently owned by BPP for conservation and recreation. On the map on the screen, these are the lands that have the lined hatching. And then the second goal is to create a compact, sustainable urban community in Cypress Village that incorporates the development potential that needs to be transferred in from Eagle Ridge to enable the protection of those lands. Now we have some information about the process. So this planning and engagement process has been underway for the past 4 years. The process was divided into 3 main phases, and phase 3 was divided into 2 steps. The focus of phase 1 was to present and confirm the overall vision and goals, and to collect community input about the share of the Eagle Ridge lands to protect at this time, and the scale of development to plan for in Cypress Village to enable that protection. The focus of phase 2 was to present a proposed land use plan and development concept for Cypress Village and to seek community input on those. Then, as a first step in phase 3, a full draft of the area development plan for Cypress Village and Eagle Ridge was prepared and published on the project webpage, giving the community an opportunity to review the draft and ask questions prior to the bylaw adoption process. And then the second step in phase 3 involved refining the ADP to reflect public input on the draft and also to reflect additional technical analysis, input from other agencies, negotiations with BPP. And the second step in phase 3 also involved preparing the full package of proposed bylaws and legal agreements that are all based on the policies in the ADP. We finalized the proposed plan, bylaws, and legal agreements in April, and then we published a series of updates for the community during May, and we hosted a public information meeting on May 22nd to provide an overview of the proposed approvals package prior to the bylaws process. And we're here tonight with recommendations for Council's consideration about proceeding. In addition to extensive technical analysis throughout the process, community and stakeholder engagement and outreach has been central to the process and has really helped to shape the proposed ADP, which I mentioned is the foundation for the proposed bylaws and legal agreements. All of the phases included a lot of awareness building using a variety of communication methods as well as a variety of engagement opportunities. And we produced comprehensive reports documenting the work and the outcomes of the Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 Step 1 engagement. This slide presents some summary statistics from previous phases, and the main takeaway is that the amount of outreach and the amount of input has been extensive. Each phase in the process built on direction from the previous phases. At the end of Phase 1 and at the end of Phase 2, we presented the results to Council and we had unanimous support to move to the next phase. We heard from the community that it's important to protect all of the lands owned by BPP and Eagle Ridge at this time, rather than in phases, so that's reflected in the proposed plan, bylaws, and legal agreements. We also heard from the community that obtaining public ownership of BPP's Eagle Ridge lands is important, so that's also incorporated into the proposed materials. There are some district-owned sites in the Cypress Village planning area. One of these is the Works Yard site. The district did some work several years ago looking at options for relocating the Works Yard site and found that options would be limited and it would be very expensive. So the plan assumes that the Works Yard site remains in its present location for the foreseeable future. The district also owns the site known as McGavin Field. That's not a field yet. That's where BPP has their Cypress pop-up village under a temporary license. And the plan retains the McGavin Field site for community use, and that's consistent with covenants that are on title for those lands in favor of BPP. The final proposed ADP and proposed bylaws and legal agreements reflect the same total amount of housing and employment space and the same list of community amenities that was presented in the draft ADP, as well as other mechanisms that are needed in addition to density to help achieve district ownership of BPP's Eagle Ridge lands and to achieve the desired amenities to be paid for by BPP in Cypress Village. I'll walk through a few highlights from the proposed area development plan. This slide shows some photos of Eagle Ridge on the left and on an aerial image on the right with the BPP lands in Eagle Ridge shaded orange. The proposed plan includes the district obtaining ownership of BPP's 262 acres in Eagle Ridge and dedicating these lands as park, along with 704 acres of district-owned lands in and near Eagle Ridge that are not yet dedicated as park. Combined with White Lake Park and Nelson Canyon Park, which would be all of these lands here, part of this process, and the two parks that already exist, that creates a contiguous municipal park area of 1,300 acres. But when combined with the Upper Lands Park, which just received the final adoption, that's actually now over 3,000 acres. This table shows the total size of the proposed community and housing mix for Cypress Village. The proposed ADP and zoning includes a total of 3,711 housing units in Cypress Village. This size of community helps to enable the protection of the lands in Eagle Ridge that are currently owned by BPP, and it also means that the village will be large enough to support a vibrant commercial core with amenities and transit service. You can see that almost all of the housing will be multifamily units, which will help to achieve a compact community. And there's a mix of affordable rental, market rental, and strata apartment units included in the plan. We expect that the village will have a population of about 6,900 people at build-out once it's fully built out in about 20 or 25 years. This is the proposed land use plan. There's 5 main elements. First is the compact mixed-use village core, which is the red shading here. Buildings in this area will mostly be mixed use with residential above commercial space, such as restaurants and shops and services. Next, there's a multifamily residential areas, which are located here. They're the orange shaded areas. And the purpose of that is to concentrate additional housing near the village core. The proposed zoning allows 13 taller buildings in the mixed-use village core and the multifamily area, with building heights up to 25 stories. Other buildings in those areas can be up to 6 stories. Third, there's the lower density residential areas, which are the yellow shaded areas. And that'll include small single-family houses, duplexes, triplexes, and townhouses. Fourth, there's employment areas. So those are the blue shaded areas or the blue outlined areas. And that includes some existing uses, such as the district's existing Works Yard site, as well as a new business park employment area, which is south of this new road we refer to as the Westmount Connector here on the screen, that'll connect from Cypress Bowl Road down to the interchange here. This business park space will allow uses such as office, light manufacturing, craft breweries, things that would be compatible with a use near the mixed-use village core. And then fifth, finally, there's community facilities concentrated on the McGavin Field site here, as well as a planned new fire station on the Works Yard site. The proposed ADP includes an extensive network of trails, paths, parks, and plazas. The plan requires that at least 30% of the lands in Cypress Village be retained as natural areas, so that includes creeks, riparian areas, and recreation areas. And that means that over 100 acres of land in Cypress Village will be retained for conservation and recreation, in addition to the lands being protected in Eagle Ridge. The proposed plan includes community amenities to serve residents of the village and nearby areas. The list is on the screen here. That includes a new fire station, a community center similar in size to Glen Eagles Community Center, childcare spaces, parks and plazas, paths and trails, over 50 acres of land for mountain biking, a new sports field, a site for an elementary school, as well as independent transit service, which will be bus service connecting the village to Park Royal, and commercial space with restaurants, cafes, shops, and services. This is an artist's illustration of what the village could look like upon build-out. And as I click through the next few slides, you can see how the village could develop over time in 5-year increments. The anticipated progression of development is generally from the east to the west. On to the business terms. So I mentioned earlier that BPP's lands in Eagle Ridge and Cypress Village are currently zoned to allow single-family subdivisions. There's a total of 626 large single-family houses on large lots that could be built under the existing single-family zoning in Eagle Ridge and Cypress Village, with over 6 million square feet of allowable floor space. This existing zoning creates significant existing land value for BPP. So in order for BPP to be willing to transfer ownership of its Eagle Ridge lands to the district and build the new mixed-use village instead of single-family subdivisions, BPP's land value based on the proposed plan must be approximately equal to BPP's land value under the existing single-family zoning. So in addition to being based on comprehensive planning principles that were developed during the process, the amount and type of development in Cypress Village and all of the terms and conditions about the development, including the provision of amenities, were negotiated between the district and BPP. And the negotiations were informed by financial analysis of the land value supported by the two scenarios. So that single-family zoning scenario and the rezoning to allow the mixed-use village scenario. We refer to this as the land value for land value analysis. In the next few slides, I'll summarize the major business terms that have been negotiated with BPP. So first, the business terms call for BPP to transfer ownership of all of its 262 acres in Eagle Ridge to the district, so the district can dedicate these lands as park. The value of those lands was estimated by an appraiser retained by the district, that was the Altus Group, to be about $500 million under the existing single-family zoning. Next, BPP will be obligated to fund and construct amenities in Cypress Village or provide cash contributions towards amenities that the district will build. That will include providing independent transit service, all of the parks, plazas, paths, and hiking trails and childcare spaces in Cypress Village at BPP's cost. BPP will also provide 2 subdivided service sites to the district or to a nonprofit housing operator selected by the district to accommodate the affordable rental housing component in the plan. And the district can then lease these sites to nonprofit housing operators who will build and operate the affordable housing. BPP will also provide cash contributions towards the fire station, sports field, community center, and mountain bike trail building. And these amenity contributions have a total cost of about $115 million in today's dollars. So combined, the value of the Eagle Ridge lands and the cost of the amenities that BPP is providing in Cypress Village totals over $600 million. BPP will pay for all the roads and services needed for Cypress Village. They'll pay for the district's cost for reviewing and processing applications and permits for the Cypress Village development. They'll dedicate parks and natural areas in Cypress Village to the district over time as subdivisions proceed. The business terms include reduced municipal DCC rates in Cypress Village and Rogers Creek areas 5 and 6, And that reflects that BPP will be supplying the local infrastructure and the parks directly, rather than paying DCCs that the district would then use to provide those. In exchange for all of that, the district will rezone Cypress Village to allow 3,711 housing units with the mix of unit types and tenures we walked through. The plan includes 5.1 million square feet of residential space and just over 380,000 square feet of employment space. To achieve ownership of BPP's Eagle Ridge lands and the negotiated amenities package from BPP for Cypress Village, there are some district asset allocations that are required. The business terms include the district allocating $13 million in funds on hand in CAC reserves towards the new fire station in Cypress Village. These are funds that were negotiated from BPP during previous rezonings in Rogers Creek, and they were intended to be used for amenities like a fire station in or near Rogers Creek. The district will also use $1 million in funds on hand that were provided by BPP towards McGavin Field, and those funds will be used towards creating the new sports field in this location. So both of those allocations are for purposes that are consistent with what the funds were provided for. The business terms also call for the district to allocate a total of $14.625 million in DCC reserve funds to projects that are associated with Cypress Village and to the district's acquisition of the BPP Eagle Ridge lands. And again, those are all purposes consistent with what the DCC funds are collected for. As part of the terms for acquiring BPP's Eagle Ridge lands, a total of 17 pieces of district-owned land totaling just over 21 acres are proposed to be transferred to BPP, and those will help accommodate some of the residential development, business park development, and the roads in Cypress Village. This includes some parcels, some portions of parcels that will need to be subdivided out, and some road rights of way to be closed. None of those parcels are readily developable on their own based on their slope, their shape, and the fact that there are restrictive covenants on title in favor of BPP for 85% of these lands that limits the district's ability to use the lands for anything other than public use. So the district couldn't develop the lands with residential or commercial uses. There's one main implication of the land transfer. The district's existing materials transfer facility is located on one of these parcels, so it will be relocated to the Works Yard site. The district will be responsible for building some of the amenities with funds that BPP is providing as part of the proposed legal agreements and the allocations from the CAC reserve fund that I mentioned. So this includes the fire station, community center, sports field, and mountain biking trails. The contributions from BPP and the allocations from the CAC reserves have been set based on assumptions about the facility size and functions, and so those budgets are meant to fully cover the costs. There are also some tasks that the district will be responsible for. So these include using reasonable efforts to try to obtain some Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure lands and a right-of-way over a BC Hydro parcel to help facilitate the preferred alignment of the new Westmount connector and also the business park area. The agreements require the district to provide a portion of the McGavin Field site to the school district for an elementary school when the school district has funding to build and operate a school there. The district will set up the Cypress Village Applications Review Project Office that'll be cost recovered from BPP. And the proposed ADP calls for the district to undertake some future processes to plan for trails in Cypress Village, trails above the 1,200-foot contour, and to explore management options for the Eagle Ridge lands. So next, what are the implications of these business terms for the district? First, the land value supported by the proposed plan and the business terms is less than the land value supported by development under the existing single-family zoning. So that means the analysis is in the district's favor, and the planning team is confident and comfortable recommending that this is a good deal for the district. It also means that it would not be reasonable financially to expect BPP to provide additional amenities beyond what's been agreed to in the business terms. Next, one of the pieces of technical work that's been completed is a financial impact analysis, and that evaluated whether Cypress Village is likely to result in any significant financial costs or financial benefits to the municipality or to taxpayers. In terms of capital costs, the main impact to the district are the costs that are related to relocating the materials transfer facility and reconfiguring the Works Yard site to accommodate that. That work has an estimated cost of about $2.8 million, which would be spread over the 3 years following bylaw adoption. The other possible implication is if the district elected to increase the size or the functions of the fire station, community center, or sports field beyond what's envisioned in the plan, then any incremental costs would be to the district's account. Those would be discretionary, so they wouldn't really be caused by Cypress Village, but the district would of course need to plan for any incremental capital costs if it elected to do so. The plan also creates the opportunity for the district to cost share some major infrastructure that's needed to serve both Cypress Village and existing neighborhoods outside of Cypress Village. These are costs that the district will be budgeting for and incurring anyways, but there'll now be an obligation for the district to spend the money on a certain schedule. There'll also be opportunities to tap into economies of scale, so the district's costs would be less than if it did these projects on its own. In terms of operating costs, the estimated future property taxes from development and from other revenues such as community center program fees in Cypress Village are expected to be sufficient to cover the estimated operating costs to the district related to Cypress Village. So things like operating and maintaining the new fire station, community center, parks and recreation, and roads. So that would mean that the district could adjust the mill rate, so property taxes throughout the municipality could be lower than they otherwise would be, or some municipal services could be expanded without having to increase taxes. So overall, Cypress Village is likely to have a net positive fiscal impact on the district's operating budget. Another piece of technical analysis that was completed to inform the plan is traffic analysis, and this was reviewed and approved by the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. The traffic analysis found that the impact on Highway 1, roads in West Vancouver, at the Lions Gate Bridge, and Second Narrows bridges is small in the context of long-term increases from other sources, including development elsewhere in the region and increased BC Ferries traffic, with less than 1% of vehicle traffic on the North Shore major road network estimated to be attributable to Cypress Village at build-out. With the planned transportation improvements and road improvements that will be part of developing Cypress Village, all of the local intersections will function at acceptable levels of service. And travel times from West Vancouver to other parts of the region will not be materially longer because of Cypress Village, with the impact that's attributable to the village estimated to be less than a 2-minute increase for most trips. This is largely because traffic increases will be gradual. The village will develop over the next 2 decades or so. The village is being purposely planned to include amenities such as a community center and shopping and transit to help reduce the need for residents to travel outside of the village for their day-to-day needs. And also the new Westmount connector will help to disperse and distribute traffic. There are also some significant non-financial benefits to the district and to residents of West Vancouver. The plan will achieve public ownership and protection of the BPP Eagle Ridge lands, which will create a major park asset for the community. Forest protection in Eagle Ridge and in Cypress Village has significant value as natural capital, helping to protect sensitive ecosystems and helping to address climate change. The plan will result in improved services and fire protection for nearby areas. It will expand housing choices, diversity, and affordability in the community, providing options for seniors to downsize within the community, adult children to stay close to their families, and helping to attract and retain workers in jobs that are important to the community, such as first responders and teachers. The plan includes business park space, which will help diversify the district's tax base, and the plan will create a vibrant new place for West Vancouver residents to enjoy for outdoor recreation and entertainment. The proposed approvals package is contained in the agenda for tonight's meeting. It includes a staff report which summarizes the process, the proposed plan, bylaws, and legal agreements, the findings from all of the technical analysis as well as the consultation and engagement processes, the community benefits package, and the supporting rationale for staff's recommendations to proceed. There's 4 main bylaws that are proposed. An OCP amendment bylaw, which proposes to adopt the ADP as part of the OCP, redesignate the BPP lands in Eagle Ridge to limited use and recreation, and it proposes some consequential text and map amendments to the OCP. Next is a zoning amendment bylaw, which includes a proposed new zoning district called CV, Cypress Village Zone, and that will govern the development of the village. The zoning amendment bylaw also proposes to rezone BPP's Eagle Ridge lands from single family to community use. There's a park dedication bylaw, which proposes to dedicate BPP's 262 acres in Eagle Ridge as park once the district obtains ownership of those, along with the 704 acres of district-owned lands in or near Eagle Ridge that are not yet dedicated as park. There's a phased development agreement PDA authorization bylaw, and that includes the actual agreement itself between the district and BPP. The PDA agreement sets out the obligations of both parties regarding amenities and infrastructure, and it locks in the zoning and the servicing standards for Cypress Village, which gives BPP security of those for the 20-year term of the PDA. The PDA is one of two proposed legal agreements. The second one is a proposed land agreement, and the land agreement sets out the terms for the transfer of BPP's Eagle Ridge lands to the district, as well as the transfer of those 21 acres or so of district-owned land in Cypress Village to BPP. It also sets out the obligation that I mentioned for the district to try to obtain interests in some MOTI lands in the BC Hydro parcel, and it includes some other covenants and ancillary agreements and right-of-way related documents. There's also 12 ancillary or supporting bylaws that are needed to help with implementing the policies in the ADP and the business terms. And we've got these listed on the screen and they're described in the package. And there's 8 recommendations to help with implementation and also with next steps in the process. So these include a recommendation to authorize entering into the land agreement, endorsing opportunities for consultation on the proposed OCP amendment bylaw as being sufficient for the purposes of the Local Government Act, scheduling a public hearing for certain bylaws, that would be for the proposed OCP amendment bylaw, zoning amendment bylaw, and PDA authorization bylaw, scheduling a concurrent opportunity for public input on the proposed road closures bylaw, directing staff to proceed with the proposed alternative approval process, which is related to the proposed park exchange bylaw, authorizing the transfer of CAC funds into the proposed new Cypress Village Reserve Fund once that's been established by bylaw, authorizing staff to undertake steps that are needed to implement the PDA, and also receiving documents that are attached to the staff report for information. So based on the planning policy context, the overall goal of achieving district ownership of the BPP Eagle Ridge lands, direction from council in previous phases of this project, the extensive and helpful community and stakeholder input received during the process, the results of the technical analysis and also of the financial analysis, the team recommends giving the 16 proposed bylaws first reading and passing resolutions in favor of the recommendations that are presented in the agenda package. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Olniak. Quite a presentation. I suppose you're going to have to do that again if we do a public hearing. Any questions or discussions from members of council? And if not, we'll move to the resolutions. Thank you. Councillor Cassidy.
Yes. Thank you very much for an excellent presentation. Who did the financial analysis, please?
Through your mayor, Councillor Cassidy, Blair Erb here from Coriolis. My firm did the financial analysis that deals with estimating the financial performance of the Cypress Village project and the Eagle Ridge lands from a landowner's perspective. There's a second piece of financial analysis referred to as the financial impact analysis, which was done by WMCI.
Was done by
Jay Wallenberg
WMCI?
at WMCI.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from members of council? I will then turn to the motions. We've got a very long set, and I'm going to ask Councillor Gambioli to start, please, with the first recommendations.
Thank you. So I'll just make a shorter speech than the mayor did.
Sorry, I know I took a lot of time.
That'll be easy, though. No, just to say that, yeah, this is a pretty big step. As you said earlier, this project has been 9 years in the making. 3 different councils have been working on this project, as well as I can't remember how many staff members, but we've still got most of our same staff members who are still working on this project. So It is, our strategic plan. This has been part of our strategic plan for the past 3 councils. And it supports our climate change goals. It supports our housing goals. And it is supported by our official community plan. It is supportive of the regional goals of Metro Vancouver and the 2040 and the 2050 plan at the regional level, which I think is significant. And it's, of course, supported by our own Parks Master Plan that's been in the works for more than a decade. So I think it's time that we sent this to public hearing. So I will recommend that the proposed official community plan bylaw number 4985, 2018, amendment bylaw number 5205, 2024 be read a first time.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Thank you. Is there any discussion? I'll call a question. All in favor? Contrary, the motion is carried. Thank you.
And I will I will recommend that the proposed zoning bylaw number 4662, 2010, amendment bylaw number 5206, 2024 be read a first time.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion? I'll call a question. All in favor? Contrary, the motion is carried. I'll now ask Councillor Lambert to move on with the park dedication.
Sager, recommend that the proposed park dedication bylaw number 5213, 2024 be read a first time.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? We'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary, the motion is carried. Thank you. Councillor Lambert.
I recommend that the proposed phase development agreement authorization bylaw number 5207, 2024 be read a first time.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Second.
Discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. Thank you. Councillor Lambert.
And recommend that the proposed road closure and removal of highway dedication bylaw number 5208, 2024 be read a first time.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
A second.
Discussion? Question? All in favor? Contrary, carried. Have patience out there. There's a lot of bylaws tonight. We'll go back again to Councillor Lambert on park exchange.
Thank you, Mayor Sager. Recommend that the proposed park exchange bylaw number 5302, 2024 be read a first time.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
I'll second.
Discussion? Question? All in favor? Contrary, carried. Thank you. The 10 different bylaws, I'll turn to Councillor Snyder.
Do they have to be read or can they be as written? Hope.
As written will be satisfactory. They have been circulated. Everyone has seen them. Okay, a motion.
I'd like to propose the, I guess they're all different, the 10 bylaws as written.
Thank you, Councillor Gambioli.
And I'll second that.
Any discussion? Councillor Thompson, are you flashing or? Nope. There you go. I'll call a question.
Hope not.
Well, just got to check. Green light's flashing. I'll call a question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. We'll move now to the land agreements. Councillor Watt, please.
Yep. Yeah, I'd like to recommend that the district is authorized to enter into the Cypress Village land agreement substantially in the form attached as Appendix 17 to the May 13, 2024 report from the Director of Planning and Development Services and the project co-manager planning the Upper Lands, including entering into all further agreements as contemplated in the land agreement, and that the mayor and corporate officer are authorized to execute any such agreements on behalf of the district, and that district staff are directed to undertake or carry out any further administrative steps and tasks that staff consider necessary to give effect to the land agreement.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? Question? All in favor? Contrary, carried. Thank you. I'll move to confirmation. Councillor Gambioli, please.
And I will recommend that opportunities for consultation on the proposed official community plan amendment with persons, organizations, and authorities as outlined in the May 13th, 2024 report from Director of Planning and Development Services and Project Co-Manager, Planning the Upper Lands, be endorsed as sufficient consultation for purposes of Section 475 of the Local Government Act.
Thank you, Councillor Snyder.
Second that.
Discussion? I'll call a question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. Thank you. Setting the public hearing dates, Councillor Watt, please.
I'd like to recommend that proposed official community plan bylaw number 4985, 2018, amendment bylaw number 5205, 2024, proposed zoning bylaw number 4662, 2010, amendment bylaw number 5206, 2024, and proposed phase development agreement authorization bylaw number 5207, 2024 be presented at a public hearing on June 25th, 2024 at 6 p.m. in the Municipal Hall chamber and via electronic communication facilities, WebEx video conferencing software, and that notice be given of the scheduled public hearing.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy.
Yes.
You were going to second it. Would you like to second it? Actually, that's my question. Councillor Cassidy, would you like to second that motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you. I'll get it right. Any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary is carried. Thank you. Notice of road closures. Councillor Snyder, please.
Yes, I'd like to recommend that the public notice of Council's intention to adopt proposed road closure and removal of highway dedication bylaw number 5208, 2024 be given in accordance with Section 94 of the Community Charter, and that persons who consider they are affected by the bylaw be given an opportunity to make representations to Council at a public meeting to be held on June 25th, 2024 at 6 p.m. in the Municipal Hall Council chamber and via electronic communication facilities, WebEx video conference software, to be held concurrently with the public hearing scheduled for June 25th, 2024 at 6 p.m. in the Municipal Hall Council chamber and via electronic communication facilities, WebEx video conferencing software, and that notice be given of this opportunity, all as required by the Community Charter.
Thank you. Councillor Watt, would you like to second that motion? Seconded. Thank you. I'll call a question or discussion. Question, all in favor? Contrary, carried. Thank you. And the Parks Exchange process, Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, can I say this as written as well? Okay, so I'll move that the following 6 recommendations be moved.
But I have a question on this.
Thank you. Councillor Gambioli.
So I just want the public to understand why we're doing this. Could staff just sort of give an overarching explanation of why we're doing this alternative approval process for the Park Exchange bylaw and how how that works?
Sure, I can do that. Is it possible?
Thank you.
Is it possible to get the slides back up? I've got a slide that might help.
Thank you.
This is just a bit more complicated, and the reasoning for this I think is important.
Sure.
They've just done something similar in North Van, and we don't usually do this, so this is just a bit unusual.
Thank you. So when Rogers Creek Area 6 was being planned, a road right-of-way was dedicated anticipating the alignment of Chippendale Road entering into the Cypress Village planning area, and that's this alignment here. And based on some more detailed planning that's been done as part of this work for Cypress Village, there's a slightly different preferred route for that road in terms of a transportation perspective, which is this alignment here. And the blue shading attaching to the Chippendale Road alignment here. So in order to facilitate that, lands that were previously dedicated as park, the blue shading, are proposed to be exchanged for lands that were previously dedicated as road. And so essentially what would happen in that scenario is that there's a slight increase in the amount of park dedication that's involved in this, on the order of 1,300 square feet. It's not a big area, but it's mainly just to go through a process to undedicate park and then dedicate other park to help with this alignment of the proposed road. In order to do that, there's a process that needs to be undertaken with electors, and so the process that we've proposed is an alternative approvals process for that.
And I guess my question is, why did we propose that?
That approach?
Yes.
We proposed that approach based on input from the district's legal team, which is Young Anderson, and that approach involves having an elector response form available for the public for a certain period of time, and if 10% of the electors submit a form that are opposed to this, then you would have to go through a referendum.
Okay, so I guess my question is, why are we, I guess our lawyers have recommended we do this alternative process, which is rare. Why aren't we just making the decision ourselves?
Oh, no, we can't.
That's what people are going to ask me.
Sorry, that's not possible. Our corporate officer would.
Hi, sorry, I can answer that through the mayor to Councillor Gambioli. The community charter requires that we receive approval of the electors for any park exchange or disposal. So that's what triggers the AAP process, and the AAP process is preferred in this a mechanism for this because it is less time consuming and less expensive for, what shall I say, non-contentious, more benign items.
Right. Okay, so the answer is that we're forced to do it this way. Yes. So thank you. I know people are going to ask me why we're doing this, so I just sort of wanted to get that out there. Okay, so I will second the motions as written.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Your mics are still on, but I'll call a question. All those in favor? Contrary, carried. Thank you. And we'll now move to items. Transfer of funds, Councillor Gambioli.
13, okay.
Number 13, please.
So I will read this one just because it's finance. So recommendation that I will recommend that the district transfer the following funds to the new Cypress Village Reserve Fund account following the adoption of proposed Cypress Village Reserve Fund Establishment Bylaw number 5221-2024. $13 million that is currently held in the Community Amenity Reserve Fund, which funds were collected from community amenity contributions from rezonings in Rogers Creek areas 5 and 6 to be restricted for use towards planning, designing, and constructing the Cypress Village Fire Station. And $1 million currently held as restricted funds from McGavin Field in the Community Amenity Reserve Fund to remain restricted for use towards planning, designing, and constructing the McGavin Sports Field.
Thank you. Councillor Snyder.
I will second that.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Councillor Cassidy, please.
Yes, I'm going to assume, and one shouldn't, so therefore I'm going to ask, we are not making a definitive decision because this has not as yet passed. We're merely taking this to a public hearing. So as far as the transfer of these funds, we need a final approval. Am I correct in my assumption?
Yes, thank you. I'll turn that
thank you.
over just to confirm.
Sure, that's correct. So as written, it would be following adoption of the proposed Cypress Village Reserve Fund Establishment Bylaw. This is a condition in the phase development agreement that these funds be transferred into a separate fund and then retained for these two purposes. So we're including it now, but it wouldn't be effective until that bylaw is adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? I'll call a question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. Thank you. Number 14, Councillor Thompson, could I ask you to move that forward?
Yes, thank you. I'll recommend that, subject to an adoption of proposed phase development agreement authorization bylaw number 5207-2024, district staff are authorized to enter into further agreements as contemplated in the Cypress Village phase development agreement, and district staff are directed to undertake and carry out any administrative steps and tasks that staff consider necessary to give effect to the Cypress Village phase development agreement, including but not limited to the planning, the design, procurement, and construction of Cypress Village Fire Station within the time frame required by the Cypress Village phase development agreement.
Thank you. Councillor Snyder?
I will second that.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? I'll call a question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. Thank you. Item number 15, Councillor Lambert, could I ask you to move that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sager. Recommend that the documents as listed attached to the May 13th, 2024 report from the Director of Planning and Development Services and the project co-manager planning the Upper Lands be received for information.
Thank you, and that is approving the 1, 2, 3. There's quite a long list. All of the documents is set out there. Councillor Thompson?
And I'll second that.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? I'll call a question. All in favor? Contrary, carried. I believe that takes us to the end of this, so we will see everyone on June 24th at 6 p.m.
25th.
June 25th. Woo! That was close, wasn't it? Thank you, Councillor Lambert. June 25th at 6 p.m. And we thank everyone who has participated in this process. And thank you to the wonderful team for bringing this forward tonight. Thank you. Thank you. We'll now move to item number 7, the development permit with variances. And I believe there will be a presentation on this item.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, I'll introduce Michelle McGuire, who will provide a brief presentation. Then we are available for questions. Over to you, Ms. McGuire, in your new seat.
Thank you. I'll just try and pull up the presentation here. Hopefully you can hear me. Is that okay?
Thank you, Ms. McGuire.
Here we go. So for consideration tonight is a proposed development permit for 2368 Bellevue Avenue. You can see a rendering of the proposed house on the screen there. The proposed development is required for form and character considerations under the Ambleside Apartment Development Permit Area, and as well because the site is located on the foreshore, it's required to have a development permit for the foreshore development permit area. I should just say at the beginning here, in this particular case, our recommendation is that council defer the consideration of the application and direct the applicant to respond to the staff advice that I'll describe in the next part of the presentation, along with our staff analysis. So here you can see the site outlined in the red dotted line on the aerial image there. It's, as I said, it's located within the Ambleside apartment area, so it's zoned RM1. The site's just over 13,500 square feet in size, located in the Dunderave neighborhood. As you can see in the aerial image there, it's located directly to the north of the existing Centennial Seawalk, directly to the south of the existing rail line, directly to the east of the existing Sea Strand apartment building, and further to the north across the railway, sites are zoned for duplex housing, and they include a mix of duplex and single-family housing in that area. The site is accessed from 24th Street through an easement on the Sea Strand property, and the site currently has a 2-story building on it. Previously, the site, the building was 3 dwelling units. The site is currently being used by the current owners as one single-family home. Here you can see another rendering of the proposed house. So what's proposed is a 2-story single-family dwelling on the site. The site is, as I said, subject to the foreshore development permit area guidelines, and the project does comply with those. In this case, the main floor elevation is set above the flood construction level, which in this case was determined by the applicant's coastal engineer at 24 feet. There is a 2nd story below that level that's proposed to be flood-proofed and includes space, including a garage, storage space, mechanical room, and a gym. The project, or the house rather, meets all relevant zoning requirements, including site coverage, height, setbacks for the RM1 zone. And in this case, the site is subject to a covenant that the district is a party to, that has a volumetric size requirement, and the applicant has demonstrated that they meet that requirement. Also proposed as part of the house, in order to address flooding and sea level rise, there are retaining walls that are proposed on the south, west, and east edges of the house. You can see a section diagram there. What that shows is the proposed retaining wall adjacent to the Centennial Seawalk. And the red line that's shown there, that shows the zoning requirements for retaining walls at that edge of the site. And you can see that in this case, there are variances that are proposed for the south, west, and east walls that are proposed. In the case of the south wall adjacent to the Centennial Seawalk, the proposed wall is approximately 13 feet in height, requiring a variance of approximately 9 feet. For the west wall, the wall is approximately 11 feet in height, requiring a variance of approximately 7 feet. And then for the east wall, that requires a variance to the grade line that's a requirement of the retaining wall. And generally speaking, in staff's opinion, especially with the wall adjacent to the Centennial Seawalk, that is a fairly significant variance, and in staff's opinion,
is not supported under this, and that's the one issue that we have remaining with the project that we're seeking council's direction on. This shows a landscape plan. Overall, the project includes on-site landscaping as well as landscaping on district lands adjacent to the site with a variety of trees, shrubs, grasses, and perennials. Particularly, the applicant has indicated that they've chosen low-growing species to avoid any potential view impacts that could be created by planting on the site. In terms of the house design itself, you can see another rendering of the proposed house there on the bottom of the screen. Staff reviewed that against the relevant Ambleside apartment development permit guidelines and generally are in support of the proposed design of the house as it is consistent with relevant guidelines and generally in keeping with the neighborhood character within the surrounding area. One additional thing is that the applicant has chosen to go beyond the minimum requirement in the building bylaw and is proposing step 5 of the BC Energy Step Code. And so that really summarizes staff's opinion regarding the house design. And really specifically, the one remaining concern that we have, as I said, is to do with the retaining walls located adjacent to the public realm area, located adjacent to the Centennial Seawalk. And we have raised that concern with the applicant going back to the beginning of the process and recommended that the applicant consider 2 potential options. One would be to step the retaining wall, and that would be so it would potentially comply or come closer to the zoning bylaw regulations for stepping the wall, or potentially to relocate the wall further back from the Centennial Seawalk to provide additional area for landscaping and for distance from the public realm area. So just in terms of public engagement, the applicant did host a neighborhood meeting and also had a more informal meeting with residents of the Sea Strand apartment building. Generally speaking, just one thing I should say here, by the time we had created this PowerPoint presentation, there have been additional pieces of correspondence that have come in, so these numbers are just slightly out of date. So we have had additional correspondence in support of the application come in since the time of putting together this presentation. And the majority of the feedback that we have received is in support of the project. Specifically feedback supporting the proposed retaining walls and variances, noting that in the opinion of the people who are writing in, that it actually would be an improvement compared to the existing condition of the seawalk and the property. Another point that was raised was that there was encouragement for the district itself to take up the recommendations that were included in the report by WSP that the district commissioned at the time of the foreshore development permit area to consider raising the seawalk itself to address the recommendations in that report. And then in terms of concerns from the residents who did raise concerns, there is concern about view loss from property to the north across the train tracks. As well, there was concern about construction activities once the project was to proceed that the applicant did respond to. And there was a suggestion that the district should potentially consider purchasing the site to have it used as a park. So to conclude, as I said at the beginning, we are recommending in this case that council defer that the proposed development permit, defer the proposed development permit back to staff and direct the applicant to work with staff to revise the retaining wall as described, and then that staff be directed to bring the proposed development permit back to council for consideration once those revisions have been made. Alternatively, and we wanted to put this on the slide, and it is included in the staff report on, I think it's page 9 of the staff report. If council would like to proceed with consideration of the application, there is an alternative recommendation that council could consider to set the date for consideration. So that concludes the presentation. Happy to take any questions. I do know that the applicant does also have a short presentation as well.
Thanks very much, Ms. McGuire. Thank you, Councillor Snyder.
For the application. So my question is in regards to the previous report, and I'm just going to refer to it as the WSP report that was done previously that made several recommendations in regards to the foreshore all the way along West Vancouver, if I'm not mistaken. And my understanding is that there were recommendations that the district also take actions, and that would be to raise the seawall. Now, I understand the cost is probably very problematic and probably the number one reason that the district hasn't even taken that into consideration. But is it fair to say that if the district had followed the advice and the recommendations of the report and raised the seawall to the recommended level, that we wouldn't be here today because there wouldn't be a variance being asked for? Is that fair to say?
Through the mayor to Councillor Snyder, I couldn't specifically say if there would be no variance, but it would either be eliminated or be significantly reduced, because the seawalk, if we were to take the recommendations of the WSP report, would be raised to a level that would mean that the wall would not be anywhere near as significant as is proposed currently.
So in fact, the proponent in this case, I mean, it almost seems like they're ahead of the curve trying to get ahead of what will likely have to be required for the seawall in the district moving forward. And to me, it appears like the applicant's just like, well, as opposed to waiting for us to have to do something and it impacted them, they've just sort of taken the initiative to jump right to that type of approach.
So through the mayor, I think that eventually sea level rise will become such an issue that we are going to have to look very seriously at raising the Centennial Seawalk. And you're right, these folks are in front of that. That being said, there are other interventions, potentially other ways that they could mitigate the scale of that wall against the seawalk. I think staff's main issue is just that council is eyes wide open about this. There is going to be, if this is approved, a significant wall immediately adjacent to the seawalk. Whether or not that's a bad thing is kind of up to, it's a subjective decision, and I think that's why we're kind of raising it here, providing an alternative recommendation. But we just want council to be eyes wide open about the size and scale of this wall and potentially other walls along the seawalk as this continues. So.
Right. Okay, then I guess my next question is in regards to the design that the applicant is putting forward. If I'm not mistaken, the wall is not, we're not just looking at a straight flat wall here. The wall has been designed to allow for some vegetation and some growth to try and break up the wall and try and make it a lot more of an attractive area. Is that not correct?
Through the mayor to Councillor Snyder, that's correct. They are proposing landscaping along the edge of the wall, noting that it is a relatively narrow area because the wall is fairly straight up, right at the property line. I believe the applicant's architect is actually going to speak to some of these things in their presentation.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson, and then Councillor Watt.
Yeah, so I certainly agree with everything that Councillor Snyder said. And I went out to the property and I spent significant time just standing in the window looking at the people that went by, and despite the concerns that the wall may be too high for now, because I think at some point in the future that seawall will be raised, not on our term, but at some point it will. And what I observed was people are walking along, they're not looking at the wall in the house. They may, with the vegetation, they're walking, they're talking, they're looking out at the ocean. So I don't see it as, they're not talking an ugly concrete wall. They're tastefully adding vegetation that will probably be a significant improvement to what is sitting there right now. So.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Watt. Councillor Thompson, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I had two questions. You mentioned the property itself was just over 13,000 square feet, 13,500 or something like that. And I noticed if they go to what you're suggesting, there's quite a chunk carved out of the lot. Does that affect the size of the property at all?
Through the mayor to Councillor Thompson, it wouldn't affect the actual size of the property because a portion of that stepped area would still be within the property lines. And that's similar to other foreshore sites across the district where they would provide a stepped arrangement up to, where you might have a pool or a house or what have you.
Yeah, just not accessible really or usable from the homestead. And this, I think I know this, that you don't know this, but the townhomes that follow between 24th and 25th, right now when the storms come in, they tend to, the big ones have taken out their gates and things like that. And I also understand that the district manages that wall for that property.
That's my understanding as well in that one area of the seawalk, yes.
So has any work been done to look at that wall and what's happening there and mitigation processes forward? Through the mayor to Councillor Thompson. So at this point, staff are doing some work with the consultant about sea level rise, the seawalk, and mitigation generally, and that will come back sometimes toward the end of the year. Okay, thank you. And then just finally, you mentioned it as a two-story house, but in these new builds with the FCL, the bottom floor is essentially uninhabitable, right?
It's not exact. I mean, you can have people residents can go down and use the space. There are no bedrooms down in that area, and that would have been a requirement of the flood hazard report. So you're right in the sense that there's sort of ancillary spaces within the home, the garage use, the mechanical room use, storage space, the gym use, and it will be designed to be flood proof.
Right, and it's just, my recollection from the very first home we looked at on Ross Crescent, I believe, and we often referred to that bottom floor as being uninhabitable with that restricted use. And what I've seen and heard from the variety of households that have come forward since then under this new flood construction level is they all come forward with a variance for height, because of the way you calculate it, they actually can't get that actual second floor of inhabitability, so therefore 3 floors. And most of the new homes built under flood construction actually do have another floor on top and get those variances approved.
That has occurred in other foreshore areas, definitely, where we're measuring height from the flood construction level rather than the average grade, which would be typical, and that requires a height variance in those cases. In this case, because of the volumetric requirement with the covenant, that likely is not possible in this particular site's case.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much. Councillor Gambioli.
So yeah, just a couple more questions. We've talked about the retaining walls being significant, but my calculation is that the retaining wall that would be right adjacent to the seawall would be about 14 feet from the level of the seawall. So can someone just point out in this room like how high that would be?
I wonder if we could save that for if the owner has a presentation, perhaps they'd be the right people to ask that.
Okay, I'm just looking around. I don't have a tape measure, but anyway, I'm just guessing 14 feet is probably almost the center ceiling at which we are here. So anyway, I'll just double check that. Maybe if someone's got a tape measure. I know that we've had applications, as was said, on the sort of Irwin Drive, Ross Crescent area, and on the foreshore side, because we're talking about foreshore and sea level rise, my recollection is that there was never a wall. We wouldn't have let anyone build a wall. It was always kind of a green shore, kind of let out to the ocean, right? Of course, that benefits the homeowner because they have a better view, but the difference here is that we're up against the seawall. But I'm just trying to get a handle on. It's not because of sea level rise that you have to build a 14-foot wall.
Through the mayor to Councillor Gambioli, our understanding is that the other options that we were suggesting as far as relocating the wall or potentially stepping the wall back were not fully evaluated by the coastal engineer. The applicant could potentially speak to that further. If they were to do that, we do recognize it would take further work and would require coordination with the coastal engineer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cassidy.
Thank you. I have visited the property and gone inside and did look around, and yes, the owner was in the house with me. That was a joke. Anyway, this wall is 14 feet high. Is that the height of the wall? It's actually 14 feet.
The proposed wall is 13.1 feet high.
Okay, so the fencing that is on the properties between 24th to 25th all right, which are on top of a wall. So there's the wall and then there's the fence. So when you get to the top of the fence, what is the height, please, from the seawall?
I don't have the height at my fingertips here for that other site.
I'm going to guesstimate it's probably 12, 13, 14 feet. So the real issue here is the question that we are thinking this is not going to be optically attractive to people walking along the seawall. That's the main issue here, is it?
Generally speaking, I mean, with the significance of the height of the wall adjacent to the seawalk, it's something that is not supported in the zoning bylaw for retaining walls, and is something typically that we would ask applicants to do along foreshore sites, to step retaining walls back to address those requirements and to provide a more stepped, softened approach to that adjacency to the seawalk in particular in this case.
Okay. Well, if I'm going to put some money on it, when those ones between 24th and 25th were put in, I bet you that's 14 feet up from the level of the seawall. There, you've got a wall, and then on top of that, you've got the fence. I would say it's about that height. So if the owner of the home, they seem to want to soften the look, they can have cascading vines and so forth going over the side of the wall and make it look reasonably attractive. Right now you're looking at an old wall in an old house. And if not that my place is here to give an opinion, but it seems to me if you're going to build a home on the seawall and you then had a high tide and logs coming your way, if you didn't have a wall, most people would have thought you're an idiot for building there. So actually they're using common sense and looking to the future to act.
Thank you.
So the real thing is just the optics of this wall.
Yes, I think that's it, and I think we should ask the applicant or their representative if they'd like to make a presentation. Thank you, Ms. McGuire.
I was going to try and open it. It's this one. Okay, great. Yeah. I'm trying to make it full screen for you. Uh-oh. What's happening? I'm not sure how to make it bigger. But here, then we can just share it right here.
There's just 4 images.
Okay. Yeah, it's just the PDF thing provided.
Advance images? Advance to the next image?
Oh, yeah, we just go.
Just down.
No, pardon me. I think you have to just scroll. You just scroll with the mouse.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much for having us. Good evening, Mayor Sager and Council. I'm Janice O'Sullivan, for those of you who have met me. I'm one of the owners of this property. And first of all, I'd really like to thank you for your time to hear our request for a variance on the property of 2368 Bellevue. We realize that there's been a whole lot of work done by staff, and we also really appreciated the time Mayor Sager and the councillors have taken to understand the issues connected to this really unique and quite complicated property that we seem to own. My husband, Phil Cotterill, is traveling on business, so he's not able to be here, but thankfully our architect, Ted Feenstra? Ted Feenstra is here to answer any difficult questions that I can't answer. I would like to take a few minutes to hopefully illustrate to you that granting the variance does not represent a negative impact on public interest, especially relative to what is there right now, and that not granting the variance could present some hardships in terms of usage of the property and liability. In terms of the public interest, we've had a large information sign on the property facing the Seawalk for over 7 weeks now, with literally thousands of people walking by. We also have had 2 information meetings, and to date we are not aware of a single person that expressed opposition to the proposed wall. It's been our experience in nearly the 3 years that we've lived on the site that the walkers are either focused on the ocean view or deep in conversation, and many people don't even notice our house. In fact, I never noticed it. The few voices that we have heard in opposition to the development are concerned about their view lines based on the house design, but the house design complies with all the bylaws and restrictions of the property and is not impacted by the placement of the flood construction wall. Slide 1. So this is the proposed retaining wall design, and 2368 Bellevue is a unique and very shallow piece of property on the seawall. Due to its adjacency to the shoreline, as you know, we are required by regulation to build a flood protection wall. This is not a choice, but a regulatory requirement that is needed to protect our property from flood damage. As is shown in this image, we feel we've designed a flood protection wall that is both effective and attractive. After the storm in January 22 that caused flooding and massive damage along the West Van waterfront, we don't think anyone can deny the need for flood protection. But if we comply with the bylaw, it would mean that we regularly expose 18 feet, which translates to about 3,200 square feet of the property to flooding and damage. This exposed area represents 25% of the entire property, which would effectively give up accessibility and the use of the quarter of the property. We would also be asked to pay for the repair and remediation that would be required as a result of storm damage. And there is a significant risk that the logs and rocks that get thrown on the seawall and on our private property will put the public at risk. We noticed many people climbing over the huge logs, the debris, and trying to avoid the flooding. And we're concerned about who would be liable if someone got hurt as they climb through the debris and cross into the private property. This slide shows the magnitude of the damage in front of our home from that January 22nd storm. Thanks, Ted. In 2019, West Vancouver hired WSP Global to undertake a flood assessment and make recommendations for the entire West Vancouver waterfront. The height of the flood protection wall we need to build complies with these recommendations. And it's clear that the seawalk will also require significant modification if it's to continue to serve the public. In that same report, WSP recommended that the seawalk be raised 8 feet, which we just talked about. And it is unfortunate timing that for us that we're having to implement a flood protection for this property ahead of what West Vancouver may have to do sooner rather than later. As the left side of this image shows, if the seawalk were to meet the WSP recommendations, the flood wall that we would build would comply with the bylaw and no variance would be required, from what we could tell Michelle. Furthermore, as shown on the right side of the image, if we comply with the bylaw, when the seawalk remediation is completed, the private property is below the seawalk and a major project would be required to remediate the 18-foot wide ditch that would be created. Thanks, Ted. We have made a concerted effort to design a wall that will minimize the scale of implementing a landscape feature in the middle of the wall. The image gives a sense of how this looks in relation to the existing landscape, both in front of our property and other areas of the seawalk. As you can see, the wall is quite a bit smaller in scale of what is there now. And we hope that these comments help to illustrate why we feel that a variance is both in public and private interest in this circumstance. Thank you so much for listening and considering our perspective.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members of council, Councillor Watt?
Cassidy, I think, for this
Oh,
one.
Councillor Cassidy, would you, sorry, any discussion?
Yeah, actually, I would like to say something. This new flood construction level is just a heartbreaker. It puts neighborhoods and people into these awkward positions because you can't help but impact your neighborhood and your neighbors. And as someone who values your view so much, it is a heartbreaker when somebody's view is affected. And I know there's one home that is tremendously affected, and I know you guys know that, and I know you feel bad. But I do, that the house conforms, so we have to focus on the variance, which is the wall. And, it's funny you mentioned that, you didn't even see the house when it wasn't there. And since this project has been in the works, I talk about it with people. I walk the wall every day, and quite often I do just pass your home without even thinking about it. And when I talk to people about it, they'll say, "What house?" And I do believe it's the only house that is or ever will be on that seawall, with the exception of those townhomes, because the rest is rail line. So it is a really unique place. And it's funny because your house is masked in all this greenery. And today I thought, I've got to go look at this one more time. And I'm walking from the east, and I noticed for the first time, really, you look through different lenses all the time, you can see your house from quite a ways away as soon as you go around the corner. And when you look to your home, first of all, the house itself there now, you really don't see it. It's tucked in there, and whatever little bits you can see other than that lovely white accoutrement, it just kind of blends in. And I see that your new house that you're proposing is somewhat in line with that. It's up 4 feet. It's still long and linear and natural colors. But what struck me is the amount of trees that are around your house that now block it. And when I see the image of your wall, and if we can just ensure that they create similar screening of the wall itself and the greenery, I think it actually will be lower than the actual trees that are surrounding it now, and even the berming up from below. So visually, I don't see it changing a lot with an upright wall. And I did notice you had 2 renderings in that last picture. How far will you be building your wall from the edge of the seawall? Right now, there's probably about an 8-foot garden between the seawalk and the...
I believe it's, am I allowed to speak?
Yes, please.
Okay. I believe it's 4 or 5 feet from the seawalk to where the property line is.
Okay, yeah, I'm just trying to get that. But it was a very striking image, I must say. And it is interesting that no one on that seawall we haven't had one complaint. So,
Well, I would just like to comment because I see Mr. Nichols is stuck with us tonight, and he must be sitting there reflecting on the negotiations he led with Harold Kelke, who owned the property between 24th and 25th. And I was there at the time, and I remember the discussions. And at that time, no one was talking about sea level rise, but the big discussion was their wall and the protection of the privacy.
Yeah.
The privacy was the issue at that time. The only comment, and it worked out. I mean, nobody would say that wasn't a good deal, fair to both sides. The one thing I do like about that is the way they finished the wall with the stones. I think it does soften it a bit, but that would be the only comment I would make. And I think that wall, that's got to be at least 10 feet. I'm looking for Mr. Nichols to see if he remembers, but
it's high enough that people walking around.
They can't see the houses, so there is no softening of the wall to the seawall. They're right up against each other.
I love the softening too, but I have to say that been really shocked to see, it looked like a dinosaur had walked along the seawall, picking all those rocks off.
Oh, is that right?
After the storm, there were huge boulders on the seawalk. I couldn't believe the damage that had happened.
I guess. Okay, I'm going to ask if any member of council wishes to make any motions on this evening. Councillor Cassidy?
I will.
Thanks very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Sorry. Recommend that proposed development permit 23-079 for 2368 Bellevue Avenue, as described in the report dated May the 2nd, 2024, from the planning technician, be considered at the July 22nd, 2024 council meeting at 7 p.m. in the Municipal Hall Council Chamber and via electronic communication facilities, WebEx, video conferencing software, and that statutory notice be given of consideration of the proposed development permit.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Watt. Any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary, the motion is carried. So it will proceed to public hearing on that, or public meeting on that. And now we'll turn to Councillor Watt's motion regarding alcoholic beverages.
Okay, here we go. Sorry, so much going on here tonight. Yes, so So I put together with Councillor Cassidy, put forward a motion regarding alcoholic beverages in Horseshoe Bay Park and Whitecliff. And I just want to emphasize that we are not promoting drinking. We're not suggesting anything, of the sort, but we do feel that in the current climate, and in particular even with inflation, that it will provide families an opportunity to get outside, have a picnic, have an alcoholic beverage should they desire, and also promote businesses certainly in Horseshoe Bay. So, and I did consult with the Horseshoe Bay Business Association and the manager of the pub, who all felt that it could actually be an asset to the community and not a detriment. So on that note, I would like to recommend that whereas the Liquor Control and Licensing Act authorizes council to enact a bylaw designating a public place or part thereof as a place where liquor may be consumed during certain hours, and whereas the District of West Vancouver's consumption of liquor in public places bylaw number 5118/2021 currently allows for the consumption of liquor in Ambleside Landing, Millennium Park, John Lawson Park, excluding the playground, and the western portion of Dundrave Park, excluding the playground from noon to dusk, 7 days a week. This proposed amendment will allow residents and visitors in the western reaches of West Vancouver to enjoy the same privileges as their neighbors to the east. And whereas this amendment will allow individuals who may not have the physical space to entertain with friends in an outdoor setting to enjoy the outdoors, this amendment will provide an economical way for families to gather with a picnic or with takeout options from local restaurants while enjoying an alcoholic beverage reasonably. And whereas this amendment will likely provide a boost to the local business community in Horseshoe Bay, therefore be it resolved that council directs staff to amend the District of West Vancouver bylaw number 5118 to allow for the consumption of liquor in Horseshoe Bay Park and Whitecliff. And before we go any further, I just wanted to add that alcohol is allowed in parks in Coquitlam, North Vancouver, Burnaby, New West, Richmond, Port Moody, Delta, and Port Coquitlam. So we're not reinventing the wheel out here in West Vancouver. I think we're just getting with the times.
And now in metro parks as well.
Yeah.
Councillor Cassidy, are you seconding that motion? Thank you. Thank you. Is there any discussion? Councillor Gambioli.
Yeah, some questions. So why are you proposing that both of these parks be allowed for consumption of liquor in both of the parks?
Why wouldn't, I suppose, maybe I don't understand your question, but they're two different places, often attracting two different crowds. You get families that will go out to Whitecliff, typically to do larger gatherings. It's slightly different in Horseshoe Bay. And I don't see any reason why not in the two, given the variety of areas in the eastern part of the municipality.
Thank you.
So I guess the reason I asked the question is because, when we discussed this a couple of years ago and decided to do the pilot, which has become permanent, in Millennium Park and John Lawson Park and part of Dundrave Park. I'm looking at Sue, right? You know the regs.
Actually, the pilot was just in Millennium Park.
Okay. My recollection is that we hummed and hawed about which parks, and we got feedback that, for example, Ambleside Park wouldn't be a good idea because it's really a regional park. There are people from many, many different parts of the region who come all the way to Ambleside Park. And I sort of get that impression with Whitecliff Park. As you say, there's big family gatherings that come there. And I guess we could say the same really about Horseshoe Bay, given the ferries there. So I just wondered, why we would need both parks. Everyone on council's aware because I forwarded an email from our medical health officer today that the medical health office has concerns about municipalities allowing more and more drinking in parks, because alcohol is actually a toxin, and it is a carcinogen, and it is dangerous to your health. So as a public health body, they're actually concerned that municipalities are doing this. So I wonder what your response to that would be.
Remove it in restaurants and bars? I don't think that
I don't
we're...
think that's not what we're discussing, though, today.
No, but I
We're
think
talking
that
about
is
parks.
part of the greater conversation. People consume alcohol in their homes, at parties. They can go to the liquor store and buy it and consume it there. They go out for dinner in a restaurant. They go to a bar where they might have more than that. I am simply suggesting that we continue with what has already been started in other parts of West Vancouver. Successfully, it would seem, or we would have repealed that.
Oh, so that's my last question, is what kind of consultation have you done with our police department?
Sue Kettler, or Ms. Kettler, would you like to comment?
Thank you. Through the Mayor to Councillor Gambioli, we did connect with West Van Police about the 2 proposed parks, and they did not have concerns.
They didn't have concerns? Yeah. Okay. So, I've got concerns with the police are obviously, working with us, but, I've got some concerns around the issue of managing all of this. Councillor Watt, who is a big advocate for everything Horseshoe Bay, has said many times she's quite concerned about people who come off the ferries and, that kind of thing. So I would think that we would be a little bit concerned about the extra kind of potential that the police are going to have to manage with both Whitecliff and Horseshoe Bay added to the mix on this.
I just want to clarify, I'm a big advocate for West Vancouver, but I am also a big advocate for equalizing the ability of people to enjoy the same quality of life across the district. So if at times that means advocating for Horseshoe Bay, then so be it. But in terms of the police managing it and the issues coming off the ferries, the bad actors will be the bad actors. People still have a glass of wine in the park. You see it, I see it, maybe you don't, I don't know. But there will always be people that will scribble outside the lines, and I don't think that this is going to change that a bit.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thank you. So as did Mayor Sager, we heard this discussion again around the Metro table, and we did hear it in our own chambers here first. The Health Authority showed up here and gave us the same presentation. They do not endorse the promotion of alcohol. And police shared some concerns, but they seem to think they'd manage it. One of the interesting comments that was made out in Metro, and this went through a number of levels of debate and had a variety of pushbacks, was the comment about, the people that go to these parks and gather, they're often living in condos. And if they want a big family gathering, there's nowhere for them to gather in an affordable, enjoyable way. So giving them the opportunity to gather in the park. And these bylaws say drinking responsibly. And that does give our police officers some discretionary power enforcing. I know they mentioned, it was often hard for them to grapple with seeing a nice young family at a park, enjoying a picnic with maybe a glass of wine, and then a bunch of rabble-rousers 50 feet away, right? And they had to close down everybody. So there is a lot of discussion. The municipalities you mentioned, and probably a few more, have gone ahead. And I agree with you. I don't think it's really you're going to see a big change of behavior. The bad ducks are going to be the bad ducks. And I think one of the big things we do have to consider is proper collection facilities. That ends up being a problem. But we've got those lovely new washrooms and all that there. But I think Whitecliff would be a great place to do this. So, and sometimes I like to reflect on the fact that when I was elected last term, I was the only councillor who lived outside of Ambleside. And I thought to myself, I don't think this council realized there's more than West Van outside Ambleside. So it's just, a little unjust that you've got a council that spans all of West Van. And there is the Whitecliff and Horseshoe Bay are real destinations for not only our own people, but people coming through and enjoying our community. So I applaud your efforts, and I'm sure it'll be a lovely summer if we get them in place. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And of course, with these kinds of changes, if it ever turned out to be a problem, we can always change it back. So, Councillor Cassidy.
Thank you, Mayor Stager. You stole my very point. Yes.
Sorry about that.
This is not cast as one of the 10 commandments. We can reverse it should it prove to have ill effects. But my summation is it's more than likely happening anyway. And the police have better things to do in general than go around chatting to families, groups who are acting civilly because they're having a couple of glasses of wine or a few beers. And yes, when you go over the mark and you become an issue, then I think the police will be there and will be speaking to the individuals.
Thank you. We'll toast to that. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Contrary? The motion's carried. We'll now move to... I just wanted to make a few comments, and I recognize members of our Ambleside Dunderav Ratepayers Association here. There was some discussion about our local area plan, which is coming up for a public hearing in a few weeks. One of the questions was, can council amend? There's a number of different heights that are set out in that plan. And yes, council can, after public input, revise the drawings accordingly and can reduce heights in certain areas. And we discussed that, Mr. Hawkins and I, today. And thanks for being here. I don't know if there's really any further discussion needed on that point, but wanted to mention that. And now I'd like to go to the reports from Mayor and Council. Sorry, Councillor Watt.
Hi.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted a bit of clarification just so the public understands as well. So we go forward with the public hearing, to the best of my understanding, and we can alter, not zoning changes, but we can alter the heights in the OCP amendments. But that would also mean that we cannot alter the density as well?
So through the mayor, Mr. Hawkins, if you go ahead.
Sorry, Director Bailey. Yes, that is correct. So as it relates to the OCP, I think the first point is that all the policies are up-tos, and none of the policies are approvals of any given potential future application. And then because they're OCP policies, after the public hearing, Council could indeed, as Mayor Sager described, lower the heights, change the heights, and that would be something Council could do after a closed public hearing. However, to Councillor Watt's point, changes in use, density or tenure could not be done after the public hearing. They would require a new bylaw and a new bylaw consideration process.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to be really clear about this. So if Council chose to not go forward with those changes, you're not bound to approve them. You can change them, but you have to go back to first reading, amend the bylaw, and then come forward with that new amendment. So you're going into a public hearing with a free and open mind. If you decide that you want to revise, if Council's majority decides that they want to, not do what's being proposed, then you're free to do that. Of course, the caveat is, as Mr. Hawkins explains, that if you're changing use, density, or tenure, then you have to go back to first reading. Just so that's clear. You're not preceding any decision by going to a public hearing.
Okay. I have a question for Ms. Dallas then. So would the process of reversing or changing that be more complicated to do it after the public hearing, if there was an appetite at the council table, or would it be advisable to do it before that and delay the public hearing by a week or two?
Councillor Watt, through the mayor, optically it may cause confusion, but that can be mitigated through public education. So my personal recommendation would be to do the changes prior to public hearing.
Prior to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
I forgot what my question was. You know what, it was timing. So if we go through with the LAP on the 17th, was it?
Yes.
And then it doesn't, what sort of time are we adding to the process?
24th.
Oh, sorry, 24th.
24th of June.
And if it doesn't pass and we go we want to change some things, what sort of time are we looking at?
So through the mayor, if council, wish to change use density or tenure and go back to the restart to give a new bylaw first reading, you would likely be into the fall. You're not going to host a public hearing in July, we understand. And I don't even think there's time to do that. So you'd be necessarily into the fall with something along those lines.
Thanks.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay. And now reports from Mayor and Council. I would just like to send some sincere thanks. It was a wonderful opportunity on Saturday this week to open the new Avalon Center for Women at 22nd and Marine Drive, thanks to the Westerlies. That facility actually cut the ribbon on 30 years ago down by Park Royal, and then they had to move out of West Vancouver. It's nice to have them back, and I thank all of the volunteers and people that make that possible. I had the opportunity to attend the Folk Festival and represent our community at the Centennial Theatre, and that's a festival that was started by the late Councillor Stella Jodine, who was a friend of mine. It was the 50th anniversary, and I couldn't help but reflect on how the cultural diversity of our communities have changed in the last 50 years. But Stella Jodine was a bit of a visionary, and she saw the need to create that kind of a holistic gathering of the different cultures, and it has flourished, and I would highly recommend it for people in the future. Councillor Thompson and I had fun. Actually, I'll leave that for you to tell everyone about the Cycling for Ages. And I attended, our former Member of Parliament, John Weston, hosted a fitness forum, the first one this weekend, and I had the opportunity to attend on Saturday. And it was really great to hear from our school board, from the superintendent of schools, and from some of their teachers, how we teach physical literacy in our classes. And I didn't know that, and we all got up and did simple exercises, which they're doing with our young people, and it was really impressive, and I'm really grateful that they're doing that. So those are my updates, and I'll turn it over to Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, well, since you mentioned the Cycling with Age, we very humbly, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there are these trishaws that have trained cyclists who will pick up seniors or disabled people, and they can take two at a time. They put them in this beautiful, comfortable front seat, and we'll cycle them and allow them to be outside and enjoy the great outdoors. And we got cycled through community cultural days.
Well, he wanted to cycle us through community cultural days. We stopped at the gate.
But it's an interesting concept. It's really growing. They actually have quite a number of cyclists who are trained to do this, and they're in touch with all our care homes and hospitals and things like that, where people need to get out and aren't necessarily mobile. And they'd just been to a cycle fest that was a joint one between North Van District and North Van City, and I'm thinking we need to get in on that next year, where they talked about actually renting out cargo bites and things like that through our own libraries. And I don't mean renting as for money, I just mean like you're borrowing a book. So it's this wonderful new opportunity, and it was fun to run around.
It was a lot of fun, and I really commend the volunteers that make that possible. Councillor Watt.
Well, I'm very excited because I think it's Bike to Work Week, so I'm wondering if one of the two of you would pick me up maybe tomorrow and ride me into Muni Hall. Yeah. Anyway, and not to talk too much about Horseshoe Bay tonight, but I had the pleasure of attending the Horseshoe Bay Taste in the Bay event on Wednesday evening with Councillor Thompson, Snyder, and Lambert, and of course, Mayor Sager. And it was such a delight after 5 long years. Oh, and there were also members of staff as well. We had Ms. Rasta, who isn't here tonight, Ms. Kettler, sorry, it's been too much today, and Mr. Findlay, and we had a fantastic time. There was drinking in 1 or 2 venues. Not that anybody here did, but just to add to that. No, it was really great to see after 5 long years the return of that that beloved community event. And I had the pleasure of doing the draw at the end, handed out 4 wonderful prizes, but the biggest delight was to the little 4-year-old JP who won a paddle board, and he tried it out the next day.
Excellent. Yeah, really, that was really a fun
It was
fun
a
event.
teenage size, but he's 4. It's very cute.
Councillor Gambioli.
Well, I'll just add that, yes, our Culture Fest was Friday night and Saturday, and wow, we were really lucky with the weather that it wasn't Sunday.
Is that ever the truth?
There was a little shower on Saturday, but otherwise pretty much decent. And I went Friday, and I was talking to my girlfriend who's also lived here forever, and we were thinking, wow, it's come a long way since the days of the maypole and the May princess, which is what I was upset about not being in grade 7. Anyway, but the booths were amazing. There was such a variety of different cultural booths and so much interesting information, and the food trucks were amazing, and so it was really great. It was really great. So thank you to staff and for everyone who came out. And then the only other thing I have to mention is that during my vacation, I actually, thanks to Zoom, spent 2 hours on a Metro Vancouver meeting. And it's the Invest Vancouver board. And just 2 highlights, they're talking about creating a regional talent accelerator. So this is the concept that industry and post-secondary institutions and government would be forming a coalition to produce a younger, skilled workforce more quickly for all of the work that we need to be done. We have an aging population and an urbanizing population, and we really need to get younger, skilled people living here and working here, and I guess get them educated faster. So that's a whole initiative with Invest Vancouver. And again, we talked about the emerging tech hub, which is the Lower Mainland, including digital media, entertainment, AI. In 2021, there were 125,000 tech workers in Vancouver, in the Lower Mainland. That's a 75% increase in 10 years. $34 billion have been invested in the region in the past 5 years in this area. And again, we need new young talent in this area, and we have a reputation international reputation for natural beauty and tourism, but we don't yet have that reputation for the strengths that we have in the tech sector. So they're looking at increasing the awareness of our region as a tech hub. So thought that was interesting to pass along.
Thank you very much. Any further reports? Could I have a motion to receive the reports? Councillor Snyder.
Yes, I'll recommend that the oral reports from Mayor and Council be received for information.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
I'll second that.
Any discussion, question, all in favor? Contrary carried. Are there any members of the public? Nobody signed up to speak tonight. Councillor Watt, would you move an adjournment?
Is it you?
Oh, Councillor Cassidy, would you like to move an adjournment?
Recommend that the June 3rd, 2024 council meeting be adjourned.
Thank you. Councillor Watt. Thank you. Question, all in favor? Contrary carried. Thanks for joining us this evening. Mr. Nichols, great to see you.